All right, everyone, let's get this baby cranked up on a Sunday afternoon, just days before college football kicks off. I know we had a game against, let's see, Central Arkansas taking on Austin P in Central Arkansas. Caught a little bit of that on a Saturday night. That was our opening to college football, FCS style. Our FBS opener involves the Power Five. And that's on September 10th, Thursday night. You Miami fans, of course, awaiting the Canes taking on the Blazers of UAB. Back-to-back conference championship game appearances in Conference USA. All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love with you, the hardcore college football fans, the smart fans. And if you're not one of those, you've come to the right place. We will educate you, and our live chat will as well. So our two topics for today, and this always goes without saying, whatever you want to talk about in the land of college football is wide open. Anything you want to talk about, you produce the show. These call-in shows are produced by you. So whether it's a comment in the comment section in the live chat, or you want to call 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687, you produce the show. Whatever you want to talk about. In the meantime, I will talk November football for the Big Ten, and I will also address my critics to my schedule release on the SEC game-by-game predictions. All right. Want to remind everyone, you can support the channel several ways. Hit the like button. That should be mandatory. Hit the like button. You could spend a couple minutes and just go through the last 10 or 15 videos and just hit the like button. It goes without saying that that helps boost the channel, the credibility of the channel in the eyes of YouTube. Also comment to the videos, of course, comment here. And the big push has been for the last several weeks for me to tell you to share the videos on social media. There are people that you're in connection with on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and otherwise who know nothing about me, nothing about what we do here. So let those college football fans know that we are here. Let's get to the live chat. And again, we're going to address Big Ten football starting in November. Big Ten football starting in November. Makes absolutely no sense, and I will tell you why. And then also, again, my game-by-game predictions that have been released in the SEC. We have Alabama, LSU, and Auburn to go. We will move on to the Big 12 and the ACC, unless the video views are not there to support the effort. All right, let's get to it. Mark Rogers TV, college football. Be there in 15. Gotcha, Mark. See you then. The call-in number, LeBrent. And LeBrent, I would love to know how long you've been watching. I do know that you root for not only the Miami Heat, but also the Kings, of course. 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. And there we go. We've got our first caller of the day.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
Here we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
NTA, buddy.
There he is.
Central Arkansas winning the game last night.
Central Arkansas got the job done. So Central Arkansas and Austin P were playing in Mobile, Alabama.
They won it 24-17.
I had the game on. I can't say that I really could give you a scouting report. I had the game on.
No, the only impressive thing for me is that two teams actually played a damn game. And I didn't see a whole slaughter of ambulances hauling these people out. So
yeah, how about that?
But thank go Central Arkansas.
You know, we actually, Navy Thomas, we got to test the theory that you brought like 100 football players all together. They rubbed elbows, they tackled, they hit each other, they laid on each other, and none of them have COVID before the game, and none of them had COVID after the game. How about that?
I don't think there's any games today, but at least one last night. Good for me. So maybe the next game Thursday somebody will play, maybe Friday. I mean, up in Nebraska and Iowa, they're playing all the high school games, but whatever. I just wanted to throw that at you and give you the team I have no support of, but Central Arkansas, 24-17 win. So, good deal, man.
Good
Talk
stuff.
to you later, my friend.
Appreciate it, Tom. Two people were waiting on the line. I apologize. I don't have a way to put you on hold, but please call back, 860-325-3687. Yes, Central Arkansas and Austin P. And I couldn't even tell you who won the game. I think Navy Thomas told us Central Arkansas. Again, I had it on last night. I had other work to do. I just had it on. And, it crossed my mind to actually preview the game, it being the first college football game of the season, and then actually do a game recap, thinking people are so starved for college football, and maybe I'll actually watch this game seriously and give it a critique analysis. But I just don't think anybody really cared that much. I think everybody was psyched up to see college football, and I'm guessing a ton of people checked out after 5 plays or 10 plays of the first quarter. But it was a competitive game that went down to the last few minutes of the game. All right, 860-325-3687. Good to hear from Tom as always. We've got LeBrent here, stuck in Target. That's an awful thing right there. Somebody significant in my life loves Target. Groon D, is this a Miami or Florida State video? It is anything you'd like it to be, Groon. I know you're taking a little jab, poking the bear. Not Miami or Florida State. As soon as any of you are able to deliver to me on 2 items. Number 1, quality guest analysts to support my analysis of that particular team, and also that it will be supported by an audience. And right now, based on the numbers that I pull, I would say that I typically need 2,000 to 3,000 video views on a live stream, about 100 to 200 people live, and then eventually 1,500 to 3,000 views on the video for it to be worth my while, and of the station, of the channel. So if you're able to deliver that, Purdue fans, Michael Hogue, your name just came to mind, Michael, being one of our stalwarts, of course, loving the Boilers. McD Sports 4, Maryland live stream. I will do a live stream on anyone. So Miami fans, Florida State fans, Ohio State fans, certainly don't be full of yourselves thinking that there's a special reason or treatment of your particular team on my channel. There's not. My aim is to cover college football top to bottom and to give it proportionate content based on the level of play. Talk about the elite teams and the elite games and the big matchups the most and descend from there. Talk about Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, LSU first and foremost, and then Notre Dame and Michigan and Penn State and Auburn and Florida, etc. And then Texas and USC and Washington and Oregon and North Carolina and whomever else. You get the deal. But if we started doing Temple Owls videos and they got 50,000 views, I would continue to do Temple videos. I'm a college football fan. I'm a college football analyst. I'm building a business. I'm a businessman as well. So we have to factor all that into it. All right. Sooner Thrawn, good to see you. Yes, just saw that a couple minutes ago. Jamar Chase, top LSU wide receiver, has basically said, hey, why play the 2020 season? And this for a team that obviously is coming off a national championship run, could vie for another SEC title and beyond, and will be playing a reasonable season during the actual football season from September to December and beyond. But he has said, I'm sure he's weighed his various factors. Hopefully he's listened to the right people and determined this football season is not going to benefit me. So he has opted out. Similar to the trifecta we saw in the Big Ten prior to the cancellation of the season in that conference, with Micah Parsons of Penn State, Rondell Moore of Purdue, and Minnesota's Rashad Bateman. Sooner, weird that crowd last night sounded like high school football game. Guess that's how college going to be this year with 15 grand or less fans. By the looks of the stands in that game, I don't think there was anything close to 15,000 people there. But there were people there. Well, where was the social distancing? I did not see the social distancing. And am I bothered by that? You want to know the truth? Of course, I give you nothing but the truth here. I don't care. I'm not saying that people shouldn't social distance if that's what they feel comfortable with, or should not be wearing masks. I wear my mask in public, as has been recommended and is a state guideline, but I'm not paranoid about it. And I think the more and more information we get about the severity of this crisis, pandemic, the more and more information we get, we are able to put the numbers into context to understand who is truly being affected and has been affected. Something we've talked about months ago. We were ahead of the curve, and I'm not talking about me in particular, but I'm talking about myself, all of you, or many of you, and the people that we brought on here, and the people that I follow on social media, in basically months and months and months back, being able to say, everybody gets stuck on the case number and the death number, and don't look into, just go to the next layer of information. You don't even need to grind down beyond that. Let's look at the people that are truly affected. Mike, good to see you. Our home games always sound like that game last night. A Miami fan who is speaking the truth and not afraid to say, hey, it is what it is, and this is what it is, and hey, I'm not going to pretend that we show up like an SEC team or somebody else, Oklahoma or Texas. Cheryl, good to see you. Maybe there's still a sliver of hope that we see Ohio State football along with the rest of the Big Ten this season, as there are reports out there that the Big Ten is contemplating a season to start late November. Okay, let's read this from ESPN just to get the conversation started. The Big Ten is discussing Thanksgiving weekend as one of several options to start its football season, sources told ESPN. An early January start with an 8 or 9 game schedule at indoor venues has generated the most discussion so far, but pushing the season kickoff to around Thanksgiving also is under consideration. And we will explain why this is idiotic. The Big Ten on August 11 became the first Power 5 conference to postpone its fall season. And everything we know about the reasons given versus the reasons that are probably in play versus the 8 Nebraska players on Thursday that filed suit against the conference demanding that the postponement decision be invalidated. And of course, we've seen the outcry of parents, players, coaches, and the fans in the Big Ten. So the Big Ten decision has not been met well, accepted by and large. I would say it's about 80-20 against in the heartland versus what we've seen in the Pac-12, where pretty much everybody has nodded and accepted the decision for whatever reason. Either they've been convinced and satisfied with the process, or they just don't care as much about football, or some combination of the two, which would be my guess. Are there passionate Pac-12 football fans? Yes. Are there as many as in the Big Ten footprint and the SEC? No. Both of those statements can easily be verified, backed up. I know Pac-12 football fans that are just as fervent as an SEC football fan, but they are few and far between, and there's just nearly as many of them. Hey, Cheryl, good to see you as well. Let me know if you want to be a moderator. Everybody out there that watches on a regular basis, you are certainly eligible to be a moderator. We've got Trevor in the house to be a moderator at some point, as soon as I determine what guidelines need to be set up to be a moderator. And we will get to that. Nate the Great, don't be late. Good to see you as well. Joe Kurosaki, man. This is probably where I need to wear the glasses instead of the contacts. Boo the Big Ten. Jay, it's not even Joe, it's Jay. Can't even make out the screen. JAE, hey Jay, good to see you. This is the first time I've seen your handle, so I've got to give you the big welcome, of course. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Jay would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching. My thoughts on the Big Ten starting in November. This is simple. Okay. This is highly competitive sports we're talking about. Therefore, the determination of a champion is enormous. That's the reason they're playing. They're playing for our entertainment. They're playing to make money, and they're playing to determine a champion. Who is the best? The system sucks, but it's still a system to determine in an invitational format, not a playoff, an invitational, who should the champion be and who won a 4-team playoff. Okay, the Big Ten canceled. And upon cancellation announced that they would look into a spring season, and they weren't specific on that spring season calendar. Most of us thought February, March, April, that's a 3-month season. Okay, their first announcement said, we're looking to start playing in January, which many of us scratched our heads, thought about the weather in Big Ten territory in January. We have since been given information that the season would be played indoors at indoor stadiums, with a lot of travel involved, obviously, for teams like Rutgers to get to Indianapolis and play, teams like Minnesota to get to Indianapolis to play. There's only so many options of where to play. I guess Minneapolis, I should say, Indianapolis, St. Louis, if you consider that in the Big Ten footprint, which it's not. Regardless, the thought process at that point was the spring season was going to start in January. So if you start playing in January, meaning you need to be practicing in December. Then you have the issue with the holidays, and you have weather issues. Okay, now the talk is that potentially the Big Ten could start playing at the end of November. This is even more idiotic than playing in the spring. At least in the spring, they are separated from the rest of the football universe to say, for whatever reason, whether it's valid or not, we are playing in the spring, we're playing at a separate time. And only time would tell as to whether that determination and that decision could be backed up in that the other 3 conferences season tanked and they weren't able to finish, and the Big Ten could say, see, we were wiser and smarter, and we're playing in the spring. Or that the 3 conferences would be successful in completing a season, and the Big Ten would look bad, but at least they would be playing a separate season. Okay. This isn't for a league that is so academically minded. Their senses, their common sense is to be found. I don't know where it is. It's not in the upper tiers of the conference. It's not with the decision makers. I know there's a lot of brains in the Big Ten, and there's a lot of smart people, but they are either have no common sense or they're not the decision makers. So starting with Kevin Warren and also holding the university presidents accountable for this latest gaffe, potential gaffe, they haven't announced it, it's under consideration according to sources. Think about what type of response from you, from the fan base, from the nation, in terms of credibility that the Big Ten would receive from all of us starting a season basically when everybody else is wrapping up. Right when the season is getting good and we've got a view, a picture of what the championship race is going to look like in the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 with 2 or 3 games left, the Big Ten is going to start playing. So the Big Ten has worsened its decision by being separated from the college football playoff and the championship by saying, we're going to make matters worse and we're going to look even more pathetic by participating on the field at the same time that they are, but not being able to do so in such a manner as to which we can catch up to actually participate with the rest of them to compete for a championship. How pathetic is that? When the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC are in games 8, 9, 10, 11 and determining conference championships, and we're all feverishly debating who should be the top 4 and look at this conference championship game matchup and all these key games the final few weeks, how are we going to look at and treat games that are being played in the Big Ten for whatever conclusion it is, a Big Ten championship, that's it. No non-conference games, no nothing. I can't even begin to describe the insanity and the stupidity of this potential decision. It's even worse than the initial decision. It's far worse. They will be the laughing stock. Social media will not have enough characters on Twitter for people to bash the Big Ten playing its first couple games of the season while everybody else is concluding the season, and there are championship implications. Just look at the first few weeks of the Big Ten season and move it to the end of November and pick out the best games, whatever those are, what you would anticipate to be the best games, and just think, how is this going to be viewed by everyone? Because it's not going to mean anything. It's going to be meaningless. And the national media is going to treat it as such, and we're going to treat it as such. I will treat it as such. When Minnesota's playing Iowa, and that would typically be a pivotal game, or Penn State and Michigan, or Ohio State, Michigan State, fill in the blank, that is going to be our last consideration. We'll talk about it, but that's going to be the last consideration because it's going to have absolutely no impact on the national championship race. None. Zero. Because the Big Ten has decided we're not participating in the national championship race. How idiotic is that? When all they need to do is back up that consideration of starting Thanksgiving weekend, back it up 1 month. And I talked about this with our Ohio State panel on our Buckeyes live show, so check that video out, because if you love Ohio State football and the Big Ten by extension and are a national college football fan, you got to check out our Ohio State show, because we bring on 3 of the best in Tony Gerdeman, Steve Hellwagon, Kevin Noon, Rivals 247 Sports represented, talking college football. And we just couldn't get enough of the stupidity of this potential decision by the Big Ten. The first decision was asinine. This would be asinine times 100. It took me all of about 20 seconds to look at a calendar for 2020, starting in October, count the weeks, give everybody in the Big Ten a bye week, 1 bye week, say play 10 games in 11 weeks, put most of the bye weeks near the middle of the season, let's say weeks 4, 5, and 6. The season would be completed by the end of December, you could take a week off, do not play a Big Ten championship game, take a week off, and have your champion show up at the college football playoff with everybody else. The Big Ten could start on Saturday, October 24th, and still participate in the college football playoff with a bye week for everyone during the season and after the season to prepare for the college football playoff. How's that? And if they really wanted to push it, they could have a bye week during the season. Then they could go right from the final regular season game into a college football playoff situation by starting the first week of November. But no, they want to start the last week of November, be playing on Thanksgiving weekend, a ton of meaningless games that will result in nothing versus the most meaningful games of the season in the real college football season. I don't know off the top of my head what games those will be, because typically I would be able to recite all the games because we know what the traditional Thanksgiving weekend rivalry weekend looks like, but the schedule's been turned over topsy-turvy, so I don't know off the top of my head what we're looking at. I'll look at it in just a second. But those games that are going to matter in the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 toward a championship, both toward their conference championship games and the college football playoff, are going to be competing against week 1 of the Big Ten season. Big Ten ratings will hit an all-time low. Who's going to watch? Games I would normally watch because I want to see Wisconsin and Iowa play. I want to see Penn State and Michigan play. I watch Michigan State play Purdue. I watch as much college football as I possibly can. Those games are going to be my very last resort. Very last resort. And why not? They don't count. They mean nothing. All right, let's look at the schedule as it stands right now for Thanksgiving weekend in college football to see what the Big Ten is up against. And it really doesn't matter because we know that these games are going to count toward who's going to make the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC championship games and potentially the college football playoff. So it doesn't really even matter how good the matchups are. They're going to be huge. Let's see here. So this must be week. Come on. I'm guessing Thanksgiving is on Thursday, November 26th. Yeah, it has to be. All right, so if the Big Ten's starting that weekend, here are the games for the rest of college football, the college football that matters. Friday, Notre Dame, North Carolina. No, I think I'll watch that Illinois-Indiana game. Yeah, UCF in South Florida, Louisville, Boston College. They're all playing on Friday. Again, Notre Dame, North Carolina. Saturday, Clemson, Pitt, Alabama, Auburn. Georgia, South Carolina. Oklahoma, West Virginia. LSU, Texas A&M. Kentucky, Florida. Texas, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati Temple, Tennessee Vandy, big rivalry matchup there, and on down the line. Duke, Georgia Tech, Virginia and Florida State, Miami and Wake, NC State and Syracuse, Kansas State, Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Arkansas, Mizzou, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, of course, the Egg Bowl. That will probably be moved to Thursday night, I would think, Thanksgiving night. That's a tradition. But just the first few games. Notre Dame, North Carolina, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, South Carolina, Oklahoma, West Virginia, LSU, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Florida, Texas, Iowa State. Those are the games we're going to be watching. Awful. Awful. Gotcha, Cheryl. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Cheryl contacts me at MarkRogersTV@gmail. MarkRogersTV@gmail. Okay. You can reach me at 860-325-3687. I apologize if people have been wanting the call-in number, 860-325-3687. I don't think there's really any other way to slice it. It's obvious that the Big Ten will be irrelevant playing in November, even more so starting its season at the time of the climax of the other three conferences season toward a championship. It's only going to highlight how pathetic the decision was. They're going to be playing like week 5 against the college football playoff. Week 2 or week 3 of the Big Ten schedule will be competing with the conference championship games in the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line.
LeBrant, how you doing, Mark?
I'm good. What's going on?
Long-time listener. Been listening for about 6 months, and I must say, man, I really enjoy your program. I enjoy the content. And whenever you get that business started off, I want to be one of the investors. I feel like you got the ability to take over Phil Steele or Athlon. So let's get it going. I appreciate you.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. And once again, I didn't quite catch your name off the top.
LeBrant.
Oh, you're LeBrant.
The Heat. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Long-time Heat fan.
Okay, cool.
Game fan.
No, I'm glad that you called. I appreciate all the participation in the live chat recently.
Definitely. Got some free time, of course. Number one, you got to get clean. Don't be so sad that the Big Ten is making you look like a fool right now. I mean, Ohio State will be back. Unfortunately, y'all got egg on your face this year. You kind of look like idiots. Back to the Big 12, I don't know how they come out smelling like a rose in all this, but I am glad that they decided to play. And to be honest, I feel there's so many factors of this. Number one, you got the wealth of the institutions, and you got people against that. Then you have people that they have the right to say when a child can play, or a young adult, let's say, and that hinders their ability to get to the NFL. So that's a factor. Then you got these kids that come from the majority of them come from impoverished zones or places from, inner city or places like that, and they want to play. This is their chance to get out of that. This is their chance to make an extreme amount of money. So it's so many factors, and then the safety component as far as medically, and then the liability. It's just been a crazy year. And to see that game last night, even though it wasn't that entertaining, like you said yourself, I was one of those people that I had it on for the first quarter and then turned it on for like the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. And it wasn't the game. It was the appreciation of seeing the coaches, yell at the kids and then put their mask back on their face or, all the sidelines. It was just those small things to say, okay, maybe this representation on TV will get us a little back, get us back to a little bit of normalcy. So I was appreciative of the game. I am a longtime Canes fan. I listen to Cam and Wholesome and you all the time. I listen to the guys with the FSU channel every now and then. I haven't got to the OESU guys that you interview because I'm still bitter about that championship y'all stole from us in 2000. Hey, guys,
You still with us, LeBrant? Oh, we lost you there for a few seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, keep going.
I am a long time.
Hey, LeBrant, do us a favor and just hang up and call back because our connection isn't good. So we're not hearing much, and we're hearing a lot of static and just not getting you too well. All right, we're at 860-325-3687. You can help support the channel so many ways, but smash that like button. Let's start there. Share the videos and the live stream links on social media. That could really blow us up. I'm telling you, we broadcast to 2,000 to 3,000 people typically for most of these videos and live streams. And if most of you would take those links, share them on social media, wow. That would
the call will start
serve us well. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Sorry about that, Mark. You got me?
Oh, you're loud and clear now. Good.
Yeah, there's some construction outside all of a sudden.
Okay.
I'm in the Twin Cities, so, you know, Gopher Country's pretty sad because...
Oh, you're up in the Twin Cities. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in the Twin Cities. Beyonce, she's a Gopher, so I'm kind of plugged in with the Big Ten and what's going on and happening there. You guys are looking pretty bad right now, but I am a longtime Canes fan. I love the content that you do. This is my first time calling. Like I was saying, I'm glad we got a season kicked off and about to run some errands, so I'm just going to sit back and listen to the rest of your takes and other people that call. But I wanted to pose a question to you since this is just a call-in random show. And it's a multiple choice. You ready?
Okay. Fire.
If you could have one team that used to be a powerhouse in the playoff this year, and since the Big Ten and the Pac-12 is out, I was going to put USC and Nebraska in that, but let's go with Tennessee, Florida State, which I can't believe I just said that, Auburn, and a Big 12 team. Let's go with Texas. Out of those four teams, which one would you like to see in the playoff?
Okay.
And thank you very much for your continued content, man. I appreciate everything you do. Stay safe. Hope all the callers and the listeners and the viewers stay safe. And you have a good one, Mark.
It's great to have you on board, LeBrent. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Always.
Got our guy LeBrent. It's been nice to talk to him for the first time here in the last few minutes. He has certainly been a huge contributor for the last several weeks in the live chat. So I will answer it this way. I will say that as soon as he posed the question, before any names came out of his mouth, for no particular reason, USC came to mind. I just thought I would like to see USC be prominent on the college football landscape again. I'm not a USC fan. I'm not a fan of any of the other four teams that he mentioned. I don't dislike them, like them, could care less what they do between Florida State, Tennessee, Auburn, and he said Texas. But I'm going to say if one team could make the college football playoff between those four this year, I'm throwing out Tennessee because I think that would mean upheaval in the SEC. So I'll take it. Hey, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Another beautiful Sunday here in South Florida. Sorry seeing the 305 called in. Just wanted to share my 2 cents. And hope everyone's doing well out there. But, Mark, I wanted to look at everything that kind of happened this week in college football. In particular, what transpired over there in Raleigh at NC State. And I believe they're going to resume practice for all sports on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. But I just wanted to use that as a snapshot if I could, because it poses a situation that I think every head coach has prepared for in one way or another for this fall. But when you look at it being a game week and this happening down the road, you've got to look at all these potential plan Bs, plan Cs, and plan Ds. And one of the things that concerns me is if it's a big TV market game, we're probably going to have college football, we're going to have some big games. And let's say Notre Dame and Clemson are playing on this Saturday, and on Tuesday we get 2 cases, and on Wednesday we got 17 kids. the ability for every athletic department, in particular every head football coach, to get their situation under control in such a short window, such a short period of time, I think those challenges are going to happen every week. A friend of mine, his daughter is at Alabama. She's a former lacrosse player and just a really good athlete, sharp kid. She's a returner, and went up to school 2 weeks ago, and she's in quarantine. Another friend of mine, his son is at UM here in Miami. Their floor, that dorm that happened last weekend, they're still in quarantine. So all of these issues are going to come up. It's going to spread. When you go into a classroom, we all know that kids are going to put that mask under their nose for a second. One kid might do that and sneeze. It goes up in the air. It goes up into the air circulation system, and it's going to spread, whether we like it or not. So the plans, my point here is all the plans of action that our ADs, head football coaches have in place, I don't think you can totally prepare for everything that's going to happen to you in a bad week. And the ramifications are grand, in my opinion, Mark.
So I don't believe that you can prepare for anything, but the one thing that should be prepared for, and I hope that this has been thought through, is that when they built the schedule, they should have gone through every matchup and said, okay, week 1, Miami, UAB, if either team can't play, obviously the game's not going to be played. But if UAB can't play, what are we going to do? Is there anything that we can do on that particular week? Because they should be able to go through the entire season and take out each team in each matchup and then say, is there anything that we can do to make up either that particular game, or team Wake Forest has a bye, it's week 3 and so can't play. Wake Forest, we're going to insert them to play, and we're going to find out on Monday and say, Wake, you're going to play NC State instead of Duke. And we may turn out to have a different schedule than what we have right now, number 1. Number 2, we're going to have to be okay with some teams playing 9 games and some teams playing 7 games. We're going to have to be okay with that, because that is going to happen.
And what do you do when Team A is playing Team B, and Team A on Tuesday announces 3 kids have it? They test everybody for the next 48 hours. Nobody else has it. Do you still want to play if you're Team B? Do you still want to play Team A? Maybe it just hasn't incubated long enough in some of these kids. Do we test every day from that point on? Or do we just stick to, like at the ACC, we just test them 3 times a week?
So
the logistics here haven't been explained to the extent that they need to, not just for players, but the parents of these players. And all these players are coming from tough situations, broken homes. I get all that, but a lot of these kids have at least one parent involved in their lives, and that parent needs to have some level of security for the well-being of their child.
Well, it hasn't been explained to us, but I would hope that they have at least so they can't figure out every situation, but they can have guidelines in their head to think, okay, generally with 85 scholarships and 105 players on the roster, if X number of players test positive, we can still continue. Or if it reaches this threshold, depending on who those players are, we can't. And that they have, okay, if we have a test that's positive at this point in time, we can do this. But if we get to this point, we can't, and there's no turning back, and there's no way to insert another team into this week's schedule. They have to have all that worked out, I would hope.
You know, 2 weekends ago, I brought up the famous Tar Heel Gazette and their headline.
Yep.
And I think it might be inappropriate. It's a vulgarity, obviously, but in terms of what it's trying to represent, I think it's on target. This is a major cluster of you know what.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much that can happen. And with that in mind,
mind when you have a venue, you've got a game, it's a national matchup, it's a big game, and boom, just like that, it's taken away from you. That type and those types of issues, when I go back to looking at what the Big Ten did and with their new leadership, I just don't think it was simply the medical ramifications. And it's primarily that. I get that. But it's also the other side, which is the logistical nightmare. The level of security you have to have in place to make sure that that group, that entity is safe day in and day out and not contracting the virus. And there's so much involved. Yeah, it's also from a term of litigation. I get that. But again, it's what I've always said. So much unknown that you're rolling the dice. Here in the state of Florida, on Wednesday in Orange County, Florida, by Orlando, there was an outbreak, which was actually revealed. It wasn't hidden like Duval County had previous to that up in Jacksonville. So Osceola High School, that school's now on quarantine. Those kids didn't get a chance to play anybody yet, but what if they had? And look at the staffing that you have for every entity. The mean age of a coach is 52-point-something years old in high school in the state of Florida. Look at the average coach is obese. Now, if you get to ethnicity, the average coach has diabetes and is obese. So all of those risk factors, they come into play. Here in South Florida, we've lost an athletic director at a prominent high school and a baseball coach in the last 3 weeks. So we continue to roll the dice here. And I understand we all want football. But at what point is the well-being of everyone more critical than scoring touchdowns?
So run that casualty rate by me again. You lost a baseball coach. Run that by me again.
We lost an athletic director at Caravella High School and a baseball coach at MacArthur High School in the last 3 weeks.
Okay. And that's in an area how large? Covering how many schools?
South Florida, it's in Broward County, which is I believe it's the second largest county population-wise in the state of Florida.
Well, that's my point. That's not many people.
Oh, it's a ton of people. Orlando has...
No, I'm saying that's not many people to test positive with all of those people in the population. That's the point I'm making.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. And again, now there's different ways of data being reported. And that's why I kind of alluded to earlier what happened in Duval County when parents didn't even know. There was up to about 980 between JU, North Florida, and the school district itself. There was 980 kids that tested positive. And again, we have to consider it's not just the kid getting it. Yeah, they're going to shrug it off. The ones who work with those kids day in and day out. The AD here at Caravella is 40-something years old. This thing doesn't care how old you are. But we're going to continue to roll the dice, and I'm not going to be a supporter of it. But it's part of the livelihood that most of us have. In this business, and we're just going to have to work around it. But it's a troubling time for those that are involved on the other side, those that are guiding these kids. This thing is nothing to play with, but unfortunately, Mark, we're having this situation. I was hoping things would get better. And one last thing here before I get off. You've got Labor Day weekend coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think it'd be a smart idea to close all the beaches down for a weekend or for a full week and say, hey, you know what? Let's make sure it doesn't spread like wildfire like it has in the past. Let's not actually have to open up, dining facilities, indoor dining facilities.
You're talking to the wrong guy, RC. You're talking to the wrong guy, because the more I see this play out, the more I am for freedom, cautiously freedom, and I believe that the numbers are getting better, and a lot of the numbers that we've seen from the past, we're learning the context of those numbers.
Well, I think you've got to consider the source of your information.
Well, sure.
Now, I don't know about I don't know about you, but I'm not a doctor. But I know that there's university in the D.C. area named Johns Hopkins University, one of the premier medical science establishments in the world. If they're telling me day in and day out that my county's real percentage of the positivity is 13.8, but my state's telling me it's 7, there's a big discrepancy there.
Sure.
You know what isn't a discrepancy that everybody's pretty much online with? That every day there are over 1,000 Americans that are perishing because of this.
Well, what's our
And
death
perspective
toll
of
up to?
families,
What is our death toll up to?
we're at 183, 184. I haven't seen everything for today. We were 182 yesterday. Close to 183.
Okay.
But for me, one life is too many. I don't know about how that
Yeah,
works.
well, absolutely. But if we want to make that the criteria, then we wouldn't do anything in life. I wouldn't go to the grocery store right now because I could get in a car accident and die. I need to call
but that's
Instacart.
apples and oranges. In my opinion, that argument, Mark, in my opinion, is apples and oranges. Two different types of situations altogether.
Not really.
Pandemics are not fruit.
Not really.
They're
If we treated this pandemic to the end of the spectrum type mentality of shutting everything down, we would protect many more people, yes, but we would also be jeopardizing livelihoods, mental health, a lot of other things.
Well, do you consider the fact that other countries were much more aggressive as it came into their countries? And after 3 months, I believe they're operating as close to normal as possible. And I don't think we use that same approach in this country. And if we would have, I think right now, we're not having the amount of outbreaks that we're having on college campuses throughout this country, in high schools throughout this country, in schools, in heavy populated areas. We had Sturgis a couple of weeks ago. Again, contact tracing is getting better, right? You've got to admit what's working. They're starting to make an impact. And if you look at all the cases in Chicago, Kansas City, Omaha, Nebraska, your Sturgis beds, the science is there. It's up to us to be able to nip it in the bud, utilize all your methodology to control something. But if you do that prematurely, you're just always going to be behind. And that's the point, Mark. We're still behind, and we shouldn't be. And it has nothing to do with politics. It's just common sense. When your stomach hurts, and it's been 2 weeks and it's still hurting, you're going to go to a doctor, or you're just going to go to a homeopathic situation, whatever it's going to be. But you're going to go somewhere to get it resolved, because eventually it's going to impact your day-to-day life and your well-being. So you're going to get it done. And who do you go to? They don't have all the answers, but they know more than I do.
It shouldn't have anything to do with politics, but let's not kid ourselves. It has a lot to do with politics. It shouldn't have anything to do with politics. It should have to do with assessing the medical risk versus the risk to the rest of society functioning, the economy, people's livelihoods, et cetera, et cetera. That should be the total evaluation of the situation and the decisions that are made. But I know better than that, and I believe you know better than that.
And that brings us to where we're at today, that we're hitting and we're missing. But unlike some people, when we miss, I know someone died because of the miss. I know someone might have.
Yeah, but somebody may not have a business. Somebody may not have a business. Somebody's kids may not get educated. A lot of other things may happen because we're missing on the other side.
But how have the other countries been able to handle that? They invested early on in their own resources to help their people, to help their citizens. Plus, they utilize the methods, as common sense methods, that contain this. And
Well, we're at this point losing all sorts of viewership because I just don't think that we're attacking college football at this point. So I understand your concern. I have concern for it.
I hope it's a play, man.
I have taken it.
I want to play. I want you to get safe, though, Mark. That's
Absolutely. If we need to sincerely not play a college football game this season, and that will realistically keep more kids safe, then that's what we need to do. I don't think that that's the circumstance. I don't see how that makes any sense at all.
Hopefully we won't have any kids perish as a result of this, or any staff members at any university. That's what we got to hope. But right now, it doesn't look that way. I think we'll definitely have it. And when the first one happens, you realize everyone will shut down anyway.
Sure.
And that's because nobody wants to lose their university. And right now, they're not in a good situation. Look at all these kids in North Carolina. They want their money back. They're not living in the dorm. They're not getting their money back. They're getting a credit.
Okay, RC, I appreciate it. We got other calls coming in, but thank you.
Hey, be well, Mark. Always a pleasure, buddy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to stick to college football because that's where we start to wane off the college football trail. I have my personal opinions about the situation. And again, should it be about politics? Absolutely not. None of this should be about politics. But it is. It is. Let's not fool ourselves. There are decisions being made out there about politics. And I was trying to come up with a statistic that I read and was sent by several people that I conveyed earlier basically just earlier in the last couple days. What's going on here? Why is it not doing what I've asked it to do?
Start the call or choose to decline. The call will start.
There we go. But before we take this call, and unfortunately we had two calls there that didn't go through for whatever reason. So I don't have the numbers in front of me right this second. Let me see if I can find them. This comes from the CDC. So RC made the point that when you look at numbers, statistics, you need to know what your source is. Unfortunately, we are inundated with all sorts of talking heads and social media comments and erroneous information out there.
The call will start at the beep.
That you have to throw up your hands at times if you don't know what the source is or the validity of the source. But when it comes straight from the CDC, as I will read in a second, then you have to trust that source. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? This is J-Love T. Happy Sunday, and hope you and your family as well.
J-Love T, how are you?
I'm great. Can you, before you go with the CDC question also, and this is a fact, and this is the main reason why I'm going to the games this year as a Hurricanes fan. Remember, there's a video of somebody, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but an official that said that the COVID-19 deaths are correlated with everything else. Are you familiar with that, or do I have to break it down to you?
Well, explain that to me. When you say the COVID deaths are related to everything else, what does that mean?
Yeah, what I mean is, if someone was to get into a car accident, and if they had symptoms or if they tested them for COVID, they're automatically calling it a COVID death.
Yes,
if it
absolutely.
Was a flu, or,
yes, I'm aware of that. I've talked to medical people.
Not talking about.
Yep, I've talked to a number of medical people that work in medical facilities that have told me how they are instructed to confirm deaths and other things that they're being told to do that are not necessarily the best course of action for the individual or for the healthcare system, but it's best for the hospital or best for the political slant.
Preach, Mark. Thank you, because I didn't know that you was down to break it down and tell the truth on your show.
We do our best to tell the truth. I always want to tell the truth, J-Love, but I also want to respect everyone's opinion, and I don't want to sound like a know-it-all because I'm nothing close to a know-it-all, especially when it comes to situations like this. Therefore, I try to be cautious and hesitant in spewing out opinions all over the place. So even if I have a certain thought or a certain tendency to think a certain way, I don't want to spit it out as gospel fact because I don't necessarily know.
No. Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So are you going to say the statistic, or you was already done?
Okay. You can keep going here, and I'll look it up.
Okay. I wanted to interview you for a second. You know, as a Hurricanes football fan,
Okay.
and home of the ACC, the gossip talk throughout all of the group chats and everything is recruiting. Is as you as the Ohio State fan, is recruiting still going as planned or anything like that? Because I feel like a lot of schools will probably take advantage, especially if the schools don't play this winter, like the Big Ten and the Pac-12.
Sure.
So have you heard anything on the recruiting part for Ohio State or the Big Ten or the Pac-12?
So as soon as it was announced that the Big Ten canceled the season, Ohio State had a commit flip, a 4-star prominent player. Can't remember his name. I'm not big on recruiting. I don't like to chase around 17-year-olds and try to figure out what they're going to decide. I like to wait till National Signing Day, and when they actually make their decision, then I can look at the Miami list and say, okay, I can look at the North Carolina list and say, okay, I know they're going to play for them. But the whole process just kind of bores me. So I have other people on here, as you know, Jay Love T, to fill us in on all of that. But I know that Ohio State immediately, within a few hours, had a major decommit flip to somebody else. But then they also picked up 2 other prominent players here in the last week to 10 days, top 100 players in the nation, 4-star players. So it apparently hasn't hurt them.
Okay.
Here's your stat from the CDC, J Love T.
All right.
This week, the CDC quietly updated the COVID number to admit that only 6% of all of the 153,000 deaths recorded actually died from COVID. That's 9,210 deaths. The other 94% had 2 to 3 other serious illnesses, and the overwhelming majority were of advanced age. That's a direct quote from the CDC, and it shows the chart, and it's directly from the CDC website.
Facts. Like I said, I'm going to the games. I'm a 22-decade Hurricane fan. I mean, life is already short, and I do take precautions, whether it's eating better, drinking the ginger with sea moss, and then, I'm going to enjoy myself. And I hope, because in the beginning, and forgive me, I was a little insensitive about the Big Ten situation, Big 12 situation, but I didn't realize how much of an impact that college football had on a lot of people.
Sure.
And especially with a lot of jobs. That's something that a young fella, a 30-year-old like me, don't really see until a situation like this happens. And I do really hope that you guys do end up playing football this year in some way, somehow.
So J Love T.
People need it.
So J Love T, what are you recommending me to drink to stay healthy?
Ginger tea.
Ginger tea
and sea moss.
Ginger tea and sea moss?
Yeah, sea moss.
All right.
And don't forget your black seed oil. Clean up that immune system. So
what
ginger
else?
tea, get you some ginger from the grocery store, because here in South Florida, I'm from Miami. When people was going crazy over paper towels, people were fighting over ginger, turmeric. Turmeric. Are you familiar with turmeric?
Yes.
Yeah, turmeric. That's what people were fighting over. It was, I think, we're in August. It was last month that they were finally having gingers back in the shelves. You couldn't find ginger basically anywhere in Dade County, maybe Broward or Palm Beach, but nowhere in Dade County, because everybody were fighting to keep their immune systems clean. So, like I said, Mark, if you can stock up on those things, continue to drink your water, And then, like I said, I'm not putting a 100% guarantee, but I guarantee you, you'll be better than others. It'll help you. It'll help you more than 20 people. I can guarantee you that. Oh yeah, I see that bottle of water.
So that's going to help me more than the chocolate chip cookie dough I was eating a few minutes before I came on here. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Oh man.
All right, J Love T, I appreciate it. You got anything else for us?
Oh, one more thing for your show. Thank you for everything. Continue with the hard work, and I also want to give a shout out as a Haitian American. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Black for life.
That's right.
2020 has been a not so great year for legends. We're losing legends every other day. Not only that, also they said Cliff Robinson died. You know, I'm a young buck. I don't really know who that is.
I saw that. Yep.
Yeah.
He was only 53.
Yeah. Wow. But rest in peace to everybody, and everybody please stay safe and continue to tune in to Mark Rogers. And happy football season, guys.
Thanks, J Love T. Stay in touch, man. Stay healthy. I apologize to the couple people that were on the line and trying to get through, so please call back 860-325-3687. Well, of course, if you called previously, you do already have the number. But for anybody else who would like to call, I will catch it here at 860-325-3687. Clifford Robinson, I was both impressed and surprised to see the stat on him, and I'm always picking up stats. That Clifford Robinson was 13th all-time in minutes played in the NBA. I know he played a long time, and if you recall, Clifford Robinson was one of the few guys during his era that wore the headband. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's DeAndre, brother. How you doing?
There he is. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So I was trying to get an understanding of what you and J Love was talking about. I understand what you were saying about the stats. Like only 6% of the people that are reported died of COVID. Coronavirus was actually dying for that particular reason, and 94% was those other underlying reasons. Like the guy that died on the that got killed on the motorcycle. They say, yeah, he had coronavirus. And he died because of a motorcycle crash. So I get that. But I missed part of the conversation because I was doing something else. I figured you hear the baby in the background who was hanging out. And my question is, are people trying to say this is like a government hoax, or what are they trying to say? Because, like I said, we don't keep politics out of it, but the government, why would they want sports shut down? It's like one of the biggest money makers in the whole country. I mean, like, I think Alabama, Nick Saban's probably the highest paid public worker there is. Or I think I saw one time Calhoun, when he was coaching Connecticut basketball and they were going through a recession, he was the biggest money maker in the state of Connecticut, because they asked him, was he going to give some money back? He was like, no. I was like, wow. So I'm just trying to figure out what people are trying to say, because why wouldn't you want sports that's bringing in that much money? I mean, I don't know any other industry outside the tech business that brings more money into sports.
Okay, I can only speak for myself. Obviously, everybody has their own opinion, and of course, if you look at everything being on a spectrum, on a scale, you have your people all the way to one end who say, shut everything down. I'm going to, put a shield and wear armor, and we should not be anywhere within 50 miles of each other. And then you've got all the way to the end of the other spectrum. It's a hoax. Who cares? Do what you want. And you've got everything in between. The only comment that I was making, and this was started by our friend RC, the Miami fan, and he's completely right. And I agreed when he said, when you get information, when you get statistics, who knows if they're correct? You need to know and trust the source. And I said, exactly, you're exactly right. I know if I see a football stat, whether it's correct or not. There's a zillion ways to verify that. And Obviously, we know if Tom Brady threw 35 touchdowns this year, that can be verified.
Right.
But when you're talking about something like this, oh my goodness. And that's why I don't typically communicate statistics about this situation, because I don't know if they're correct. But the statistic that I pointed out came directly from the CDC. So if somebody's going to be accurate, I would think that they would be accurate, number one. And number two, they wouldn't have a motivation to skew the numbers and to bring to light that maybe it's not as severe from a casualty standpoint as we had thought. That wouldn't be their motivation.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Mark. I was just wondering because, like I said, it's just, I think part of the problem right now in our country, now we're so divided. We can't agree on anything. We can't agree on what the sky is.
Oh, DeAndre, you're right about that. You're right about that. And I told somebody the other day, I said, I don't think it's going to happen. But if at least I think 80, I would hope, I have this much faith in this country that like 80 to 90% of us generally want bad people, and I'm putting that in quotes, murderers, rapists, those people to be brought to justice and put in jail. And we want equal opportunity for all people, whites, Asians, Hispanics, blacks. We want everybody to be treated the same, given the same level of justice, the same level of opportunity, and all of those things. And simply want to be healthy and given an opportunity, and want our kids to grow up with an opportunity to advance, and want people to be treated fair and with respect. I would hope that the majority of the country could agree on that. Now, how we get there...
I think we do.
Yeah,
that's another word for it. Yeah, and that's part of the problem, because I'm like, if these people didn't think it was so serious, why would they be reporting? I mean, if you look around the world, other countries are going through the same symptom measures. What would, I mean, like I said, you know, you listen to politics, I listen to it too. Oh, the deep state. I'm like, come on, man. I mean, we all know there's only one way three people can keep a secret. That's if two of them dead. There's no grand conspiracy. I don't think it is. Like I told you about the reason why I had a bad, why it was bad for me with COVID, because of my blood type. You and a whole bunch of other people, and you didn't call me a liar, you never heard about it. I had to show my cousin, like, yo, he has it. And he was talking about the same thing. Like, man, I never heard nothing about no blood type. I said, man, it's right here in the documentation. And I showed him. The doctor said I had the reason why mine was so, because of my blood type. Maybe I was the first, I'm not saying the first person, but maybe I was one of the few people that it happened to. Because it is a rare blood type. I mean, that's why it's called a rare blood type. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. All I can say what I went through, and I wouldn't want to go through other things. Like I was trying to tell some of the other guys, and people knocked me for my suggestion about having a bubble where, like, Clemson plays Wake Forest the first week of the season, and maybe they can go stay on Wake Forest campus. And they were like, "Well, that's stupid. There's no reason for college kids to be on that campus." But you got to also look. The equipment managers go home, the trainers go home, and they get contact with other people. And I'm saying, if you build a bubble for that 1 week of a game, and maybe that will slow it down a little bit, where you can have extra people in the stands or stuff like that. I mean, I just got finished watching, I think it was Central Arkansas and Austin Peay.
sure.
I mean, those people won't social distancing yesterday. I mean, I don't know how it spreads. I just want it over. And nobody in our government can tell us how we can get it over. I mean, I just saw, and that's all I was calling this year. We saw Jamar Chase news where he said he's going to sit out the year, which I don't blame him. Because, I mean, like I said, if one of those equipment managers give it to a player and they're not, and it goes to Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase has a bad reaction to the COVID or to one of his people, he's going to be like, wow, I should have sat out. But
like I said, man, everybody's different, and I'm about tired of COVID. I'm about done with it. It's like, yo, I just want it over. Like, just go on by this way. That's how everybody feels. And like, I want to go back to what we were doing last year at the time, talking about college football, because I think Clemson was Thursday, September the 3rd against Georgia Tech, and we got to wait until the 12th. So I just want it over, and I want to watch football. So, and I just want sports. I mean, I'm tired of the protesting. I'm tired of the politics. I mean, I'm just one of the people. I'm ready for November the 3rd to get here. We go ahead and vote and get this over with. I'm just done with it. I never seen our country so divided.
No.
Over crazy stuff. Not in my lifetime. And I didn't grow up in the 60s or the 50s or the 40s, but in my lifetime, I have always had friends that were from different backgrounds. My best friend, he's a white guy, and we talk all the time about this stuff, and we can't figure out how did it go so bad with what's going on in our country today. Yeah. We just don't know why. Why is there so much hate? I want to, like you just said, if a criminal did something wrong, I want him to go to jail. If a cop did something, I want him to go to jail for whatever he did wrong. Investigate it, give a fair assessment, not just because he's a police officer and people going to be mad. If he did something wrong, he did something wrong. Arrest him. Have him locked up in prison just like you would anybody else.
I got a question for you, DeAndre. I got a question for you, DeAndre, and I typically don't steer the conversation in this way, but I'm curious to know this, and I think this is an honest question, and I want, of course, you're going to give me an honest answer. When you see an incident like what happened the other day in Wisconsin, and you see a white on black supposed crime or incident, it has to be investigated and all of that. I'm not going to make the judgment on that right now. Do you automatically, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this, but I'm just curious about your feeling. Do you automatically think that that's a racial issue, or do you think that white cop could just be doing that just to anybody?
Well, I want to give you two things, Mark. You know, I work in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And law enforcement agents are always going to be second guess. Is there a better way you could have handled it? When I saw it, I'm like, why didn't it tase him? And then when I saw one guy did have his taser, so the taser obviously didn't work.
Twice
I was like, well,
is what I heard.
Huh?
I heard that he was tasered twice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The taser didn't work. But when you reached in the car, I know the kids was in the car.
Yeah.
Could you have tased? Could you have pepper sprayed them? The blind them? Even if he came out swinging with a knife and grabbed a knife in? Because that's the way I look at it. 7 shots. Could you have shot him in the leg? I mean, I know there's an artery in your leg that still could have caused you to die. But that's what I look at. But I have a lot of cop friends, and I work in law enforcement. So, no, I don't think white cops, when this happens, you got to protect yourself because you want to go home to your family at the end of the day, too. So I understand where they're coming from. Because when I had to go, even when I'm not in as a correction officer no more, even when I had to go help them out to go for a cell extraction, I'm going to go because I want to go home to see my family. I don't care what it takes. You're not going to hurt. You're not going to cause me not to go home. So I can understand where the cops are coming from. But at the same time, Mark, since the beginning of America, African Americans have been treated poorly by police and the government. And I'm speaking as a 43-year-old man. When I came up in the 80s and 90s, I was always told, be wary of the cops by my people because they grew up in the 60s and 50s and 70s. So what did they say? And they always say they're going to take the cop word over your word. We looked around precinct 80 up in New York. Look at them and the drug sales that was going on I look at police and a mob turning their head and letting mobsters do what they want to do. So there's always been crooked cops. But like I said, you got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. So that's what's building our society. I was listening to China Mac talk, who was a drug dealer in the Chinese mob. He said the exact same thing. Like, we have a distrust for the police. We don't talk to people that's outside of our group. We go handle it ourselves. So that culture builds a sort of a blue wall for those citizens in that culture. So there's always been distrust for the police because you have police that were crooked cops because they were being underpaid. So they did stuff to make extra money. So it's always going on in the cycle. I'm going to put it like this. In South Korea, they use a lot of cameras to catch speeders and people stealing. But here in America, if you did that, you're violating my constitutional right of privacy. You got all these cameras up. So what did you do? It's a win-lose situation. When I saw that, now that guy in with George Floyd, yes, he definitely should be in prison right now.
Sure.
Yeah. And those guys should be ashamed of themselves that they sat there and let that happen to George Floyd. But this other case, I can see why the guy said, hey, he possibly had a knife on him, blah, blah, blah. But I do look at other situations where you could have handled that situation a little bit different. And that's why police officers wear cameras before they can actually see what goes on. That's why when I go in for a jail distraction at the prison to help the CEOs out, that's why they got the camera there. To see what did you do and why did you do it. What you did, justify what you did. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to go home. I mean, it happens, and that's what goes along with the program. But there's always been that inherent distrust between cops and the black community. But if you go around and ask any community, there's always been that distrust because that's the way it is. That's the way some cops work. And I hate to say this, but it's only been 50 years since blacks got the right to vote and all of that other stuff. So you look at that, we have always been treated like second citizens, even if we pay taxes and pay property tax, and we paying these people that are supposed to protect us to abuse us. I mean, go back to the riots and stuff. And I hate to say that, but that's what's built in our society. And it's going to be a long time to get rid of that, especially what's going on in our society. And again, it doesn't help that the federal government uses this as politics too, because I'm going to leave it alone, but Joe Biden has done a whole lot to hurt us in the past in '94, and so it has Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump rhetoric is not helping either. So we got the worst of both worlds. So you got one person that has hurt us in one way, you got another person that's hurting us the other way. Look at them rioting. Not all them people are bad. I mean, just like all cops are bad. I would say about 95% of police are really cool people, man. I mean, I come in contact with them all the time. I'm sure 95% of those rioters, or not rioters, protesters, are pretty cool people too. But we just got to come together and find out how do we solve it. I mean, that's why they send us to crisis intervention training, mental health training, and stuff like that to see how you can do this escalation. Verbal judo. That's why they send us to places like that, so we can learn how to talk to people. Because sometimes, mental health. I saw, like I said, I'm gonna let it go, but there's like a rope that people can shoot at a suspect and tie him up. Now, if that suspect has a gun, I mean, you ain't gonna shoot no rope at him. He's gonna try to think, but then the cops gonna come back and say, "We already carried so much on us, man. How we know we're reaching for the right thing?" So, I mean, it's a catch-22 to all of it, Mark. So, I'm just ready for football. I can't wait for the 12th.
Yeah, let's watch some football.
Wait for it, or whoever's going to play. I enjoyed watching the last night.
That's right, DeAndre. Thanks for the call. Hopefully we can get together sometime this week and talk some Clemson football and ACC.
Yeah, it's coming up, man. I know it seems like they're real busy. Like I said, I go by myself and show you what I can do. I can't wait to get a chance. They some good guys, but I know they get busy sometimes. And that's life and that's family. The same thing with you. But I hope I can get together to do a show with you too.
All right, DeAndre.
But you have All right, man. You have a great day.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the contribution.
All right.
That was our man DeAndre, big Clemson fan, ACC college football fan, and we like to at times dive into the 80s and 90s. And this time our conversation veered off into social justice, which is not a bad thing, which I typically don't do because we're going to stay true to college football here. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Derek from Pennsylvania. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, Derek. I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad, man. Can't complain. Just playing one foot in front of the other, as always, trying to maintain as much optimism amongst these chaotic times we all find ourselves in.
There you go. There you go. What's on your mind?
Yeah. I'm just ready for just like football in general to really kick off. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm not really too sure as to how much, what's the best way I'm playing this? Like, I haven't really been following up a whole lot of like the football schedules in terms of like the NFL and college football, because I'm not sure if like this is still 100% confirmed, because my sister actually is enrolled at Northwestern and the Big Ten conference is canceled. Do you know if that's still the case?
If what's canceled?
Because she goes to Northwestern,
yes,
and I think it's the Big Ten,
sure,
and they canceled.
Yes.
Do you know if that's like still there? Yeah, that's a really big bummer, because I feel like as crazy as things have gotten throughout the past couple of months, I feel like every single American wants something just to just sit down, relax, and pretty much empty out all kinds of emotions that they're feeling amongst these like crazy times. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Sure, people want to be entertained. They want to forget about their problems. They want to forget about all the national issues we're having to deal with and be entertained.
True. Yeah, because I feel like, if anything, this is probably going to be the biggest problem for the most watched sports in America. And what I mean by that is because you've seen throughout the past couple of weeks of how the MLB and even the NBA have been sort of pandering to the Black Lives Matter and with like George Floyd and
sure,
now Jacob Blake. And like I'm fearing that the ratings for some college football and even maybe the NFL, if they're still going to go forth with the entire season, are probably going to go down, and like people are not going to be watching it a whole lot if like they're sort of going to be pandering to the politics of today. Because you saw of how during the national anthem at like the end for the MLB and the NBA, the players kneeling and like Black Lives Matter pretty much for specifically the NBA like painted on the court. And I just feel like in regards to that, like obviously like I consider myself a fairly political guy, but when it comes to sports and politics are two things that should not combine with one another, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if anything, like I said, it's a way to really just forget about what's going on in the real world and just enjoy the moment of just being able to watch some really good like games, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're basically saying that you don't want politics and social issues to interfere with your sports viewing.
Yeah, because I've already seen too much of that in my feeds on social media, and like even like when I turn on the news, it's like something of like politicians bashing Trump for whatever, or like Joe Biden being called a whatever, and it's just like I don't want, like when I want to watch, because I'm like, when it comes to MLB, I'm a Yankees fan. When it comes to the NBA, I'm a Celtics guy. And when it comes to just like football in general, my family is big Pittsburgh fans, so Panthers and Steelers all the way. And like, we don't really want to, like, for me personally, as much as I might have my strong opinions on like topics of what's going on, I just don't want to let it conflict with something that should be like America's pastime, if you will. Like something where we just like something that should be enjoyable.
Sure. Point well taken.
Be, like, divisive.
Yeah, we get your point. I would tend to agree with you. I think that if you're going to watch any sport, pick your league, that it should be about the sport. It should be about the competition on the field, around the ice, around the court. Now, if they're going to do some type of a human interest piece on a particular player, and that player is very adamant or very involved and interested in a social cause, and they want to talk about that in the confinement of that piece, then I think that's fine. I also think that these players have large social media platforms, and if they want to go off on whatever political stance they have, they have a large platform to do that. But to turn on an NBA game, which if I don't watch another NBA game the rest of my life, I could care less. But to turn on an NBA game and be blasted with stupid social opinion, and I make that comment stating that it's not necessarily stupid of those particular players, but it's not why I watch sports. It's not why most people watch sports. And it's an annoyance, especially if you don't necessarily agree with their opinion. But you have to make the decision. We as individual consumers have to make the decision. If it annoys us, is the annoyance worth the entertainment value? And the networks that broadcast and the sponsors have to determine, is the message that we're sending, which I don't believe that they should be involved in any social message myself, because I could make a list of social issues that I think we should all be disgusted by, and we don't seem to be that caring of a lot of things that go on. You could talk about sex trafficking. I don't see anybody rioting in the streets and putting up banners and going crazy and protesting about sex trafficking in this country. But there are 15 and 16-year-old girls being abducted and put into sex trafficking every day in this country, and nobody seems to be that concerned with that. So we could all go on our social campaigns about what's right and wrong. So I don't think these leagues or networks should be in the business of that. But if they so choose to make that decision, then they may have to suffer the consequences of the ratings going down. So everybody has a decision to make.
I 100,000% agree with you, Mark. It's not like that's sort of like what I'm trying to get at. I don't care what your political viewpoint's in. If you want to display it upon millions of people on television, this is America, land of the free. You are able to do that. But the key thing here, in my opinion, is subtlety. It just feels like every single time a topic like this is like sort of shoehorned in, if you will, it's almost like it's shoved down our throats and we have to accept it, when it like shouldn't necessarily be that way. It should sort of like be like, okay, like here's like the message I'm trying to put forth. Now let's play like some sports, but like still keeping that like message pure, if you will, and not like sort of making it like something that it really shouldn't be, making it almost like a mountain out of a molehill. When there are, like you sort of said about like sex trafficking, in my opinion, there are far more important issues in this country and in this world like that you put forth that need to be discussed, but nobody is like going out in the streets by the hundreds of thousands and wanting change for it. But like everyone's gonna like walk to their own rhythm, I suppose.
Yeah, and so I don't want to be misinterpreted here. I believe without a doubt, and to my very core, that every person in this country, every person in this world, everybody who's been born should be treated with a level of respect and dignity, and should be treated and given the same opportunity as everyone else. I think there should be complete and perfect justice for everyone. Are we going to arrive at that place? No, but it should be protected by law. It should be protected by our legal system, our courts. It should be protected across the board, and hopefully most of us have it in our hearts to treat people with respect, regardless of their color, not looking at color, not looking at religion, not looking at any type of sexual preference or anything else, and treating people fairly and with respect and with justice. And I think that's at the very core of what we should be striving to do in this country. So I don't want that to be misinterpreted. However, in the course of that initiative, in the course of that, different people have different views as to what should be supported to drive to that goal. And there are certain organizations that are being supported and promoted that may on the surface seem to be promoting that goal. But if you really look at their websites and you really look at the message that they are sending and what their true incentive and motive is, it's not for justice and peace. They have ulterior motives. So I'll let everybody interpret that as they would like, and just to be educated and informed about who they're supporting and what they're supporting.
Mm-hmm. Like for me personally, obviously everyone should, like people, like, because it's being brought about too much of just like race. For me, if your heart is as big as the size of your character, then there's no problem. Like I could care less anything else about you. But it's just, if you're gonna keep on like putting forth this idea that like it should be, everything has to be looked at by, like you said, like race, religion, whatnot, then like this is going to be like, this world is sort of gonna like go down the toilet in flames, in my opinion. And that's why I just, like I said, when in regards to going back to like why I was first talking about sports, I don't necessarily want like, I don't want to say I don't want any political messaging, but I don't want, like I said, to seem like it's like shoved down our throats.
Yeah.
I would rather just like want to like tune in and see the Panthers.
Absolutely. We're belaboring the point at this juncture. So we've made it very clear, and I totally agree. I'm with you on that. Other people have other ideas. That doesn't make that right or wrong. We all have a personal choice whether we want to tune into the broadcast or not. And the people that are putting on the broadcast have the decision to make whether they want to include those type of messages or not. I appreciate the call.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. You have a good day, Mark.
You too. All right. Once we start to churn through the point over and over and over and over is obviously at the point at which we no longer have to continue to do that. Let's try to get back on the track of college football. We do have games being played currently, and for most of us that have the interest in the Power Five and the Group of Five, of course, those games are going to be played very soon, beginning on, there's some games coming up this Saturday, but mostly for most of the games of interest, we're starting on September 10th when UAB travels to Miami, and then, of course, that's Saturday's games. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
NT8 back at you, buddy.
All right, John.
You know, I've been listening to this for about 6-7 days, and I'm going to tell you right now, over and over and over, I keep hearing the Big Ten has to play Michigan versus Ohio State. Texas has to play. Oh, that's right. They don't have a conference. The South Southeast Confession, they don't have to do it. So here's my point, is to say, the Big East, Big Ten East played versus the Big Ten West. Okay, maybe you can pick a winning team for the conference out of that. Same thing with the SEC, same with the Pac-10 conference, same with the SEC, the ACC. I mean, how much more does this need to get explode instead of people trying to explode? Well, it needs to be Michigan versus Ohio State to see who goes to the bowl game to play for the national championship. It's all bullshit, dude. I've been listening for many days, and I'm still listening today, so I wanted to throw it back to you, and have a nice day, sir.
Where do you want me to take that, Tom? What do you need from me?
You know damn well exactly what I just told you. Ohio State and Michigan, even with Steve Peace, tried to go into that, and I just want to find out an aluminum ball.
Sure, Steve and I mixed it up the other day. Yeah.
And throw it against my video screen.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm watching you again today, and it's the same kids coming up with the same dumb shit. Ohio State versus Michigan. Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota. Come on, man. But none of that comes up against for the Southeast Conference, the ACC. I'm telling you, man, I just get pathetic of it. So have at it, man.
I will continue.
I'm sure your people will not go with it like I am, but you know where I'm going.
I will stay with it, Tom.
Catch you later, buddy.
All right, I appreciate it. Okay, it's good to see NCIS Fanatic 21, who's going to be a future moderator, apparently, along with Cheryl and Trevor Emmerich. Good to see Michael Hogue on the line. Go Boilers. ACC Grit with some good comments. Paul Klein. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Paul, it's good to see you. Have yet to see your name in the live chat. Would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching. Like Mark Thibodeau here. Michigan fan, calls me the enemy, still always gets here and watches. So I will take that. If everybody has to be my enemy, well, we can drive this to about 200,000 subscribers. Is this a new news podcast or a college football sports show? Mark, I think we typically pull through for you on college football all the time. So, yeah, I allowed it to kind of drift off because it started with college football. And, of course, we've got this situation that we've had to deal with since mid-March, and it has affected college football like nothing else. And then we have a second issue in this country, and that has also, because of the offense taken by a large portion of the college football community, has affected college football. So it has been basically impossible, because anybody that's watched me for a long enough time knows that we talk nothing but college football, wall to wall, all the time. Check out the channel. The channel now has more than 10,000 videos. I don't know that you can find another channel, college football or otherwise, that has posted more than 10,000 videos. And they're all about college football. All college football analysis, nothing but on the field discussion. Except we've had to deal with these two issues to a certain extent. I try to generally steer clear of them, but for the most part, it's a situation that has to be dealt with. So I let things veer off a bit because I was a bit curious to hear some thoughts and perspective from a few people. So here we are. We're back on track talking college football. All right. Should I even go into my predictions? Destroy, guess we lost you. That's fine. Again, anybody who watches me on a regular basis knows that more so than anybody on this platform on YouTube, my content is about college football. We don't talk about beer. We don't talk about food. We don't talk about women. We don't talk about movies. We don't talk about music. We just talk about college football. So there are two major issues in this country that have greatly impacted college football. So we have to deal with them. John making the comparison between Willie Taggart and Kevin Warren. Trying to get to anything here. Premier Youth Theater. Again, it's another, along with Premier Youth Theater and also Mecca Hanna. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Would love to hear from both of you in regards to who you root for, how long you've been watching. Always like to know that. There's many ways you can support us here. Smash the like button. Start there. Also, you can share the videos out on social media. I can't emphasize enough the influence that all of you have on social media, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and a zillion other things out there that I'm not aware of, where if you posted and shared the videos, we would get to where we need to get. We have goals here that we need to get to sustain what we're doing and make it much better. If you only knew what, for all the time that I'm on here delivering live and taped content, multiply that about 4 or 5 times with all the times that I'm working behind the scenes in efforts to make this better and make it sustainable and thrive down the road. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? This is David Knight in the house.
There he is. Hey, David.
Man, look, I made the offer in your side chat. If everybody put $2 in, I would match it.
Oh, my word. Goodness gracious.
And I know that's not that much, but I got that offer out there, man. Tell everybody, look, basic law of economics, there are no free lunches. Everybody costs somebody something. So what you're doing is costing you something. Correct?
Absolutely.
So,
sleep, time,
all
money.
the people that come in here on a regular basis and never chip in, I find something disturbingly wrong about that.
To your point, David, and I appreciate your perspective on this, to your point, late last night, and I was up till 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning working on the channel here, I was discovering links on Amazon after having a discussion with my tech guy where I was, I haven't made the purchases yet because I've selected them to then send to him so he can verify that I'm purchasing the right things. A new video camera, an OBS system, a new lighting, and a new PC to run all the graphics to where we can improve all of this. And it's going to be a nice little healthy price tag. But I want to make this much better than it is right now. And to your point, Dave, if at 21,000 subscribers, if all of them, just think about this, if all of them gave just $1 a month, then I would make a nice chunk of change. Truth be known, yes, I like money. I would like to make a nice bit of money, but I would also invest a ton of that into nice sets and lighting and travel, and I do a lot of good things that you would be able to see and benefit from. So thank you, Dave. I appreciate that you've caught the vision, clearly.
Well, I mean, I think your backdrop to me is aesthetic. It's fine.
Not a big fan of it.
I know maybe you want it to be better. I got it.
Yeah.
But my point is there's so many people on here, and they're regulars. I never see them chip in. I watch most of your programs, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, you know, you saw me where I said a 2-liter bottle of Coke and a bag of chips is $5. Come on, man. You can give that up. I don't understand it.
Well, I think the notion is, Dave, that you can go anywhere on the internet and you can find college football content to an extent. I will tell people that when I go to various sites for information, I am rarely impressed and often, most of the time, disappointed, because I think most of them are, I hate to say it this way, and I'm not talking about the people that I have on here, but when I go to certain sites, and again, I'm not going to name them, that actually are much more popular than mine, and I'm typically talking about written sites where I'm looking for information. They're poorly written, they're cliched, they're generic, they're vague, and they're really a waste of time and not that good. There's little good quality content out there. And maybe I'm a bit of a snob.
I agree with you. Even like you had a dude named Ben Belden.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I can run rings around him from Notre Dame knowledge. He's a no-brainer for me. I would mop him up and down the floors.
Well, I certainly don't want to criticize anybody that I have on here to discuss.
I'm just saying that, and I understand that you have to have a certain diplomatic approach to everything that you do. I'm totally with you, Mark.
Well, I will let you know, Dave, when I first started this, I didn't have anybody on for a few years. Probably for the first 3 years that I did this, I didn't have anyone on. And what I did each week was I looked down the list of games, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Notre Dame, on down the line, whatever it was. And I did all the research and I previewed all the games myself. And nobody complained about it. Nobody said, you don't know anything about Notre Dame, shut up. Nobody complained about it because I did my research and I watched the games anyway. But at some point, my decision was two or threefold. Number one, I figured there is no way I can know as much as the Michigan beat writer or the Penn State beat writer about their team, number one. Number two, if we have a good, lively discussion and conversation, that's more entertaining than just me sitting up here preaching. And number three, I thought, well, if they're on a credible site, then they will bring added sphere of influence and exposure to my channel. So I made that decision to start to bring on guests. But for about 3 years, I did nothing but do all of it myself.
And Mark, let me tell you this. I totally mean this, that you have been a bright spot in my life because I've been locked up in my studio apartment from March till now, and I'm going, watch what I say, I'm going bonkers.
Sure.
And for me, a lot of times, like, I don't like Miami. I don't like Florida State. I don't like any college football teams from Florida. I still watch because I can learn, right? I can learn about college football. So that experience for me is me being a sponge and me absorbing knowledge. I rarely participate in the chat because I just don't know enough to make any sense. But even, I think it was Saturday, I put $50 in there, and to me, that's nothing. But for people to put $1.99, $2.99, come on, man. That's chump change. That's not going to do anything for anybody. I'm like, I don't understand why people can't come out of their pockets to contribute to something they clearly love. I just don't get it. And, you know, maybe I'm off base, man. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say something that some people probably won't like, but let's say I'm going to work in the real world here, and I'm going to say that some of our favorite college football commentators make $5, $6, $7 million a year. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's say I want to make $200,000 a year. There would be people that would be watching right now that would think I was crazy or money hungry or whatever. I'm just throwing out a figure, but I'm making it a reasonable figure. But still, that's a nice salary. And certainly, if I was paid by all of you and everything else, and not just you, I get paid by YouTube. And if I could put all of that together, and let's say it made $200,000, I would certainly invest back into this enterprise to make it sound better, look better. The call-in system would be professional. I would do all those things to reinvest into it, but make no mistake about it, I would want to make a decent salary, especially when I'm competing against, and there are other people in the industry that make millions of dollars. I would want to make a decent amount of money. I'm not 25 years old. I've been in this game for 30 years. So it would be nice to make a little bit of money.
Look, Bart, I'm going to be deployed to Dubai soon because we had this discussion.
Yep.
I work for the prison system in Afghanistan. I'm not trying to bring anything to myself. It's irrelevant. But once I get there, I can kick you down a very large amount of cash and maybe invest in your program. We'll see how that works out. But I think not just for me, but for a lot of people, you bring a lot of joy to us that we get to participate in. And I don't understand the, how can I say this right? The negligence to not donate something that's worthwhile. Just me thinking.
Well, I tend to agree with you, but I also don't want to judge the individuals who watch. And that's why I tell everyone that they can contribute in a number of ways. They can, and that's why I'm really pushing people to go out and just share the videos. Just take the video links and say, okay, I'm on Twitter and I got 200 people following me. I'm going to share Mark's videos. Because that would be a tremendous, because that's going to send the content out to people that otherwise will never find me and never find this channel. And when I say me, I really look at all of us as a community of college football fans.
Sure.
And I reserve any type of judgment in regards to monetary contribution, because I don't know people's situations. And I know that everybody has a different financial situation.
Man, I agree 100%. And you know, I don't want to come across that, you know, you should be giving out money left and right, blah, 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 because I don't know their financial scenario either, but I'm willing to bet that people might have a couple bucks to spare. I'm just saying, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's fair for you to do what you're doing and nobody to contribute. I just think it's wrong, and maybe I'm off base.
Well, I appreciate it, Dave. I tend to agree with you, but again, I think the different people have different motivations. I think some people just love what we do here. Other people are somewhat indifferent and they just are looking for something to do and like college football. But if I shut down tomorrow, how much would people be affected? I think it depends on the person.
I think, Mark, if you shut down tomorrow, it would greatly affect everybody in this group. Greatly affect.
I appreciate that.
And tell Cheryl that I had a bad nightmare about being surrounded by people with Florida T-shirts on last night, and I didn't know how to react to that. I'm still affected by that. The Florida jerseys, the Florida T-shirts, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to cut my throat off.
That's tremendous.
Anyway, man, I appreciate what you do, and you know, $50 for me is not squat. Let me get over to Dubai I'll kick you down some major bucks, and I hope it'll work out. And I'm also going to try to create my own show, and maybe if you would ever lower yourself to my low-rent standards, you can come on and say hi.
Absolutely, I will. There's no question about that. And I will not even attempt to touch the statement that you made to disclaim your show, because there in no way would I consider it to be anything like that. It would be an honor to come on and talk college football with you, David. And any contribution that you make is certainly, I feel a bit embarrassed. I have to admit this when somebody makes any kind of contribution, because I do not feel sufficiently equipped to explain my appreciation. And I hope that shows, because I truly appreciate any penny that anybody sends. I find it humbling.
Okay, last thought. While everybody's on the race regulations, my wife is from Zambia. She's African.
Okay.
And she's very pretty, and she is the most humble woman I've ever met in my life. She reminds me of my grandmother. She's a definite throwback. She was just raised in a different place and time. So anyway, Mark, God bless you. And I'm so grateful that you've been able to provide relief for me. And I believe a lot of other people that need a relief from you. You've brightened their lives. So,
David, thank you so much.
I can't thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. And be expecting an email from me, because there's something that you said that I wanted to follow up on in private.
That's fine.
Thanks, David.
Hit me up.
You have a great weekend.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
It's our man, David Knight. David's a Notre Dame fan, and he's been watching, I would guess, maybe 3, 4, 5 months, something in that range, maybe more. I've lost track. But, man, I really can't even comprehend or respond to that type of, those type of words. Just the kindness in the words and the appreciation for what we do. Thank you, David. And thank you, Kane999, with your super sticker. I don't even know what a super sticker is, so pardon me for that. It I believe is just another form of the super chat, the super sticker. And our guy Brent, I hope he's still on the line, the reactioneer, because I want to get to him, and I want everyone out there to be aware of a YouTube channel that is one of my very favorites. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, who's on the line. Hello? Hello, you're on the line. Hello? Please call back. Our guy Brent, I lost his comment here. We've got Michael on the line. It's good to see you. Okay, if you guys could only see what I see in this live chat, because sometimes it's difficult to negotiate. So I hope that you'll, there we go. I see Brent. Let me get to this comment here in just a second. Then we'll get to the call. Hang on, caller. The reactioneer. So this is a tremendous YouTube channel. If you're into music reaction channels, you'll want to check out our guy Brent, the reactioneer. He built a YouTube channel. He had some difficulties with it. There are always those sorts of difficulties that come your way. He's had to rebuild. So please get over there and subscribe and help him out. But this guy, when it comes to providing a truly unique perspective, we use the word unique frequently, and it rarely applies. But in this case, it truly applies to a unique perspective on each and every video that he watches, music videos. I'm a huge Elvis Presley fan. I will defend him to the hilt, and that could be another conversation at some point. But Brent responds to Elvis, Beyonce, and who knows who else. I typically lock in on the Elvis videos, but I have not. And so I would say about a year and a half ago, I started to run into these reaction channels that respond to music videos. And I've run into probably 100 of them. And there have been maybe 10 or 12 that have been decent, and probably 3 or 4 that are worth the watch. And I will put this guy at the very top of the list. He is amazing. He's insightful. He will take a song that I've heard 100 times, 200 times, and he will enlighten me to aspects of the orchestration, of the emotion, of the feel, of the vibe that passed me by those 200 times. And so he does a great job, and he's a good guy. So check him out, the Reactioneer. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Sooner Thrawn. How are you?
Sooner Thrawn. I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I know you don't care about NBA, but my Mavericks just got knocked out. But I do tell you, next season, if you ever watch one game or just even one quarter, watch Luka. He's amazing. Luka Doncic, he is amazing.
So
he's the next great face of it.
I actually think I remember his line from the other night, 43, 17, and 13, because that was the game in which he was called a certain slanderous profanity of sorts. And then I had some fun with that on Twitter. But I marvel at the athleticism and the ability of the NBA. And the last time I really got into it is because my son, I will call him, I will state it this way, I will state that he was a Cavs fan. I don't really consider him still one. And that has nothing to do with their level of play. It has to do with other aspects of it. But during their run with LeBron, I got into, I wouldn't watch regular season games, but I got into the conference finals and, of course, the NBA finals matchups with the Warriors.
Yeah. But Luka, the thing about Luka is first of all, he's only at 21. He was like elite over when he was like 16 in the elite European leagues. Like he was playing against, 25, 30-year-olds, and he was making all-star teams back. He would be like we'd say like he's a musical savant. He's like a savant, basically.
Sure.
Unbelievable. But the way he plays, though, is different than most teams. Because he's not the fastest. He doesn't jump the highest, but he just goes in the lane and loops and scoops and gets, you remember how Kevin McHale would get the lane and do all those crazy moves, and then he could hit it face. He's like that, but he's a point guard. He can shoot threes. He's a great passer. In the lane, he kind of reminds me of McHale. Some of the shots he makes and looping around, and he's just amazing to watch. I'm glad he's on my team, the Mavs. I get to watch him a lot, but he's a fun player. He's going to be around a long time, like you said. So I think maybe give him 8 bucks. We lost today, so they're out. And I don't really care. And I like the Celtics. I cheer for them. So they won. So they've always been my East team. So we got somebody. But anyway, maybe Blue could just shot next year. But anyway, I was going to tell you that I had a guy, a local Oklahoma guy. I messaged him, and they do Zoom. Of course, it's Zoom press conferences with Riley, and I asked him just kind of what happens if a guy opts out, because we had Kennedy Brooks, like what's the process? And he did ask, I give credit, he did ask Riley that question, like kind of what happens if they opt out, they hang out with the team, what does the scholarship count? And what he said is the players, they keep their scholarship, they have all the medical help, they have all the tutoring, they have everything, but they are not allowed to be anywhere near the athletic facility. It's like, and the other thing, it does count against your scholarship. It's not like that you get an extra one to have a transfer. It does count against the scholarship number for the 85, which I found to be little and kind of unusual. I mean, that's kind of a deal. A guy that's not even helping the team that actually does count. But he's not. So that's kind of how an opt-out handles it. You heard about Jamar Chase. By the way, I had some guy
an LSU fan who thinks they're going to be better this year. I wonder if he still thinks that than last year, which I'm like, I don't think so.
How can they
I don't
be
think LSU
better?
years.
Oh my goodness.
I said, this was before the Chase thing. I said, I think LSU and OU are maybe an 8-2 team this year. I think both of them are. And he said, you're crazy. You don't know anything. LSU's they're going to be better than they were last year. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't know how in the world, because now that's 32 guys. It was 31 guys off of the team from last year, whether transferring, NFL, whatever. You know, we graduated or left or whatever. Now that's 32 guys that are not going to be on the team from last year.
Sure.
That's a lot of guys.
They scored more points than any team in history. They're not going to repeat that. They threw 60 touchdown passes.
Yeah. And the two coordinators are gone. I mean,
yeah, sure.
I mean, that's and they haven't had the regular off season. And I don't think there's anywhere in the world they're going to be as good. I mean, and I don't think Miles Brennan, I mean, he's been there several years, and he was supposed to beat out Joe Burrow, and he didn't. So. But,
hey, our guy, I can't pronounce his handle. I don't even know what all that adds up to. It's a lot of C's and M's. But anyway, he's asking me a question. I'll pass it along to you, Sooner-thron, since it's your team, because I've got my theory on it. Mark, why has OU been unable to produce a championship-level defense for so long now? Early to mid-2000s, they were elite. Since then, poor to average.
I think it's somewhat that OU on offense and defense, when it came to the Big 12, was a little bit ahead of the curve than some of the other teams. But I think that definitely helped them. But I think also recruiting, you're not hearing the recruits like they were getting, like Tommy Harris or Gerald McCoy or linebackers like Teddy Lehman or Jimmy Wilkerson or Derek Straits. They're not getting recruiting like they had between 2000 and 2010. Last year, the good thing is we had a Kenneth Murray, a first-round pick. Anytime you have a first-round pick, that's really good for recruiting. And they had another guy drafted in the third round, so they're at least having they can say we had some guys recruited. And the good thing is, the 24/7 recruiting site, the guy who I listened to, he has said that they are in on more recruits defensively than they've seen OU in on in several years. And but I think that's the biggest reason is teams kind of caught up to what we were running. The offenses got to me a little bit better in Big 12, but I think it's really a lot of the recruiting. And you see these programs, and I think that's why Clemson has became so good the last 5 or 6 years. Is you've just seen they have 4, 5, 6 defensive line guys drafted in the first round or two in the last 3 or 4 years, and that's where it starts. And that's why Clemson is so good. And you saw a perfect example 2 years ago when OU played Alabama. They had to for the run pass option for Bama. OU had to put 7, 8 guys try to stop the run, and Tua just were killing them. Clemson, they just rushed their 4 or 5, and he wasn't able to do it. You saw a perfect example. That's because the defensive line at Clemson has been so good. And that makes your secondary better. It's because you have that push and stuff. I mean, I think that's the big thing. I think that's the reason. What do you think?
I think one of the big issues as well has just been the lack of defensive talent in that area of the country, because I think that's been proven out by the NFL draft throughout the Big 12, except for Texas, of course, the state of Texas, that they just haven't had that many elite athletes on that side of the ball produced in that part of the country. And I don't know if that's changed or if just the better teams in the Big 12 have gone elsewhere. And when I say the best teams in the Big 12, I'm really talking about 2 programs, talking about the very best in previous years. Texas and Oklahoma have pretty much just swallowed up Texas defensive players in the past. But I've seen all sorts of metrics on where NFL players come from, and specifically to defense, and it's been difficult to find really good NFL players in that part of the country.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I mean, Ohio State's getting more guys from Texas than they used to. You just saw, even though their offense, you saw the twin offensive linemen that are one of them the top 5, the other one the top 100. They're both, and their father went to Texas, their grandfather went to Texas, their brother is at Texas, and they went to Alabama because, Alabama offensive linemen, they're pretty good at producing offensive linemen. And that was just, and that's a Texas legacy they thought, and they didn't get them. And so when those guys go on to the NFL, they'll be another recruiting tool for Alabama. But I think you're definitely, because they can't as much throughout their area. You're right, because McCoy was in Oklahoma City and Tommy Harris was Texas. I think Killeen, Texas. Teddy Lehman was Muskogee. Rocky Kalmus, he was Jinx. Derek Strait, I can't remember. I'm not sure about Derek Strait. Kenneth Murray was Houston. So that's a guy from Texas, Oklahoma. That's him with the Chargers. The guy that was drafted in the 3rd round, he was from Canada, so they don't get a lot of recruits there. Lattimore.
Yep.
But I think that's the biggest thing, is the recruiting, the upfront line, defensive line recruiting that you've seen. How did Clemson, why are they so good all of a sudden? Well, their defensive lines are amazing.
Yeah.
And that just makes your whole defense better. And Alabama has, traditionally had really great defenses, and their defensive line, it's just better than most. And like Georgia. So I think the defensive line has proven that they have to get better up front. And the guy that called, an hour or two ago, about kind of not recruiting, one thing that is interesting, Oklahoma and Georgia did this because the dead period is still until October. These coaches haven't been able to do a lot. So Oklahoma and Georgia both had they did their own kind of visit what the recruits did. They got the top quarterback, Caleb Williams, he's a senior this year in high school. OU didn't help him, nothing. It was, I'm sure, his parents. They rented a house or something in Norman, and he invited the top running back in the country out of Texas, a couple other guys that have already committed, but about 10 or 12 guys that have not committed and are all looking at OU. And he brought all in. They got to know each other, which I think is a great thing for the players to do. They saw the campus. They went to do fun things in Oklahoma City, and I think a couple of guys after that committed to OU. And that wasn't even, I think Riley talked to him by Zoom, that's about it. And I think Georgia did the same thing. So they have to get creative, and it's helping. And I think other teams will probably do this more. Because the coaches, they can't come to the games, there's nothing like it usually. It's because of the corona deal. So that was I think that was a pretty neat thing for that kid to set up. And it was pretty much organized by Caleb. Kind of pretty, to get the 5-star, and then there's a couple receivers that were there that have not committed. But I don't want to get into politics too much, but I do find it interesting that if they're talking about the end of November, then all of a sudden maybe we'll do the season. Isn't that just a couple weeks after something that ends? That is kind of a coincidence. There's an election a few weeks before that.
How does it make any sense in the world to start a football season when everybody else is ending their football season? You're even making a spectacle of yourself and your stupidity and your inability to compete with everybody else for the championship. You're highlighting your stupidity by starting it then. It's
doesn't that
beyond asinine.
Just show that it's not politics? Just kind of unofficially shows
Looks like it to me.
Why would you think all of a sudden, well, it's Thanksgiving, the virus is going to be okay? Why is that any better than October 1st? Well, why is it all of a sudden going to be so much better? Well,
Absolutely.
There is something that's happening 2 weeks before that. Now, I don't really understand why they think college football is going to determine I don't know enough about it. I'm a guy who I think both
Democrats have some good ideas, some ridiculous. I think Republicans have some good ideas. I'm kind of I'm not really. I don't understand why football would determine but when they say let's start this Thanksgiving, that really shows you're almost saying, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I just started at the September 26th that they're going to start it. Or they're that stupid that they think Ohio State's going to play for 4 games and then they're going to be able to show, they're good enough. That's just, I mean, surely they're not that stupid.
No.
But they would think that they would be, there's no way.
Starting Thanksgiving weekend, there's going to be a college football playoff, the first week of January. So let's do the math. It's going to roughly be week 5 or week 6 of the Big Ten season. Can you imagine there being a college football playoff doubleheader on a Friday night, and then the next day the Big Ten is playing a regular season Saturday of meaningless football games? How idiotic is that? It's beyond belief. And in the week that Auburn and Alabama are playing and all these other great matchups that are going to determine who's going to conference championship games, the Big Ten's going to be playing their week 1 schedule. Who's going to care? And I don't know if you heard me when all that was announced and we were talking about it the other day. It took me all of 20 seconds, Sooner Thrawn, to look at a calendar, add up the weeks and say, if the Big Ten started on October 24th, that Saturday, they could play 10 games, have 1 bye week, and catch up with everyone to play a college football playoff.
They said they're announcing the field, the invitation of the playoffs on December 20th, I think. I believe it was because, people are doing later championship games. I think it's like the 20th is when they're going to announce it to make sure everybody gets there. So you're right. If you start mid to end October, you'd have time to be in the mix. I was looking at OU's schedule, and I can't ever remember. I don't think we've ever had a home game in December, and we play Baylor December 5th.
Yeah.
Assuming we get to it.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be crazy.
I do think it's funny that they're worried about lawsuits and things, and then they're suing them so that they won't let them play.
Yeah, that would be hilarious if Nebraska won some kind of huge settlement. And
I think it'd be fun.
Oh, it'd be hilarious.
The presidents, idiots. I don't think I don't think there was a real vote. I think it was just all BS. I think they just told Warren, we're not doing it. He just made it up. Oh, yeah, we'll say a couple didn't vote because the ADs didn't even. They all said they didn't even know about a vote. How could the ADs not know about a vote? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Nope.
And I think they thought that, and whenever the Big Ten did their schedule, they pissed off the other conferences because I remember they all had a meeting, from what I understand, talking about what they're going to do, and the Big Ten didn't say anything to the other conferences that we're going to just go conference only. And then the next day they announced we're going conference only, and the Big Ten all the conference said they didn't even tell us that. I think they just thought, we'll just do it again, and they're just going to follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they did, and they had all the backlash, I think they're just like, I just do the right thing. I mean, Justin Fields was at the Georgia practice a couple days ago. He's probably thinking, man, I could do a lot. Just put me in, coach. It's too bad. I think it's sad that we don't get to see Rondale Moore, Parsons, and Justin Fields, Jamar Chase. I'm not going to get to see those guys. I mean, those are like all Americans. Those are like the 5 of the best players that we're not going to get to see this year.
Absolutely.
Parsons is a tremendous linebacker, and Moore was so fun to watch 2 years ago. I mean, and I do worry he's kind of a little guy. I'm curious to see what the draft thinks about him. He's pretty small, but and then Fields and Chase. I mean, yeah, too bad. And then Miami, that guy from Miami, is like one of the best defensive ends. I forgot his name.
Greg Russo. Yeah.
What was his name?
Greg Russo.
Russo, yeah. All right, man.
Thanks for the call, man. Always good to hear from you.
I think both of our points are very much why OU defense is struggle, and hopefully they can figure it out.
Yeah. All right. We'll see what they've got this year.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, people, you guys talking about giving money and stuff. I mean, I know you don't have a lot of them, but I do Patreon, and it's just $5. So, if people just want to do $5 a month and just kind of, maybe can build up the Patreon a little bit, that'll help. I know you don't have a lot, but that's what I do. So, and
I appreciate that, Sooner Thrawn, and I appreciate your contribution in promoting that. And I got to tell you that I need to build that out and do a better job of that. But one of the ideas surrounding those exclusive live streams was to have people come on, us just to have that private chat that you've been involved with a couple times. And then anybody that's on Patreon, for them to be able to be involved in those exclusive private live streams all the time, anytime they wanted to jump on. But for anybody else, to give them that one shot and then allow them to be Patreon members if they'd like. And try to build it out that way was the original intent. So I got to get back on that. Just looking for the time is what I'm wrestling with right now. So.
All right, man.
All right. It's always a good time. Appreciate the call.
All right. Have a good night, man. Have a good one, man. Bye.
You too. Sooner Thrawn. Just one of many of you who certainly prove when you make your call here that you follow college football, you love it. I am impressed. I rarely state this, but I am often impressed by the passion, of course, by all of you, but the knowledge and the insight. So I will say it from time to time, and I am a bit tongue-in-cheek when I state it, but I am also being serious when I say, college football fans, come to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and you'll receive an education on college football. I am being serious. I'm also being a bit sarcastic, but I also learn from all of you. Believe me, you all educate me as well. I can't know everything. I can't have the perfect perspective, and certainly I learn from all of your experience with your college football fandom and your perspective, your insight. And I cannot, with everything else I have going on outside of this channel, keep up with all the college football news. So many of you keep me informed. I'll put Navy Thomas at the top of that list on Twitter. He is always, whether it be for the public to see or in the DM that I have with Navy Thomas, sending me college football articles and information. So I appreciate that. All right. I think we have generally hit the end of the line. I see a super chat coming in from our guy, Roger Smith. Roger Smith, I apologize if I have yet to recognize your name in the past. I just want to make sure here. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Roger would love to know how long you've been watching and who you root for. And thank you so much for the contribution. It's so much appreciated. And everyone that's contributing, whether that be with the like, which I ask everyone to do, just partaking in the conversation in the live chat, sharing the videos on social media in any way that you can do that. Thank you so much for your contribution. So thank you so much. Tube Seller, thank you for the super chat contribution as well. You, Roger Smith, BGPO Football Funk, all of you have contributed today to the super chat. So thank you so much, so much, so much. I think we've done enough damage on a Sunday night. We will be back live on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time with Florida State Football Talk. We may be back sometime before then. It all depends. So please subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for the notifications. That way you know when we go live. So this week it's definitely going to be Tuesday night at 7 o'clock with Florida State Football Talk. Ohio State and Miami later in the week. And we hope to do something with Clemson at some point this weekend. And who knows when else I will pop up with more call-in shows. So thank you so much. We will catch you soon. And I will continue to crank out the game-by-game predictions. Something that I failed to get to was my response to my critics and haters out there. But we'll get that taken care of at another time. So again, all sorts of college football content. So keep it locked in right here. And I appreciate all of you. And we will see you very soon. So, John Doe, you had made a comment about me bashing on Dabo Swinney, and the only thing that I can recall is, if anything, when Dabo made a number of comments that were criticized by people on social media and on the national media concerning the race relations, when that all broke in May, who was sticking up for Dabo? This kid right here. So I have no idea what you're talking about on me picking on Dabo. I do not recall one video where I had some fun with Dabo when he was whining about the college football playoff and after their game against South Carolina, in which he was comparing Clemson's contest against South Carolina versus the way Georgia was viewed after losing to South Carolina. Yes, I took it hard on your boy there. I thought he deserved it. I thought that he certainly whined and complained with no reason. But this most recent Dabo controversy concerning race relations and various T-shirts that were worn, I stuck up for your guy, Dabo. You guys need to realize, when I hate on somebody, I don't have any personal preference. I just believe that Dabo Swinney was whining, complaining about something that he had no justification for, that he was playing this role of, we're poor Clemson and everybody picks on us and nobody wants us to make the playoff and everybody picks on our schedule and everybody puts us down because nobody wants us to succeed, and there is nothing to substantiate that whatsoever. He was just playing games, playing with the media, trying to manipulate the situation to put his team in the best possible light. And that's what he was doing. He was playing politics there, which is fine. I was just there to call him out. What he was doing to send a message to his team or send a message directly to the media, that's all well and good. He was doing it with a purpose. I was just calling him out for it. So what he had purpose to do, he had every right to do, but I also had every right to see through it and call him out. And to say, Dabo, you're whining about that. You have no justification for that because of A, B, and C. And anybody that wants to go back and watch the video, just look up Dabo Swinney on the channel. I'm sure you'll find it. It was sometime around last November at the end of the season after they played South Carolina. And I basically just laid out all of his complaints, everything that he whined about in that news conference, to say, that's not justified. That's not confirmed. No, if you lose a game, you're not going to drop to number 20 in the country. This has been verified. You've made 5 consecutive college football playoffs. Don't tell us that you're being shunned. There are 3 undefeated teams in the nation. Somebody needs to be ranked number 3. You're being ranked number 3 because you by far have the worst schedule, and that can't be debated. So everything that he complained about, I just simply held him accountable for his nonsensical complaining. That's all that was. I love Dabo Swinney, and I got on here with Pigskin Pete and mentioned all the ways in which I like Dabo Swinney. I support him. I think he's good for college football, but he tends to whine at times, and he's proving a point, and he's got a motivation to do it, and so he's executing his game plan. I'm just calling him out for it. Michael, thank you so much for the appreciation there. And there was something else I wanted to get to. Oh, we've got some really good things planned coming up soon. So one collaboration in particular, I believe, will come to fruition with another one of your favorites here on YouTube. Keep in mind that we collaborate with Steve Days from Michigan Podcast every Tuesday afternoon. It's not live, but we tape with Steve on Tuesday afternoon. That gets posted on his channel, Michigan Podcast, and then I post a little bit later in the week. But again, one of your favorites for many of you here on YouTube, and I will be getting together to collaborate on a live stream that we will present to you each and every week. So more to come on that when we iron out the details right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. See you next time. Charleston, I appreciate it. Quentin, always plenty of Gator talk here. We'll keep it up. We will catch up with it.